The Mesopotamians were the first recorded astronomers to make long-term written records. In 4000 BC, they used ziggurats to pinpoint celestial bodies, create a calendar, and tell time. They were also the first to make a zodiac by discovering that the stars that rise before dawn change with the seasons.
Around the same time as Mesopotamians were making their vast records, the Egyptians instead used astronomy for more practical reasons, such as calendars and making buildings represent the stars, such as the Great Pyramid of Giza. Much of the Egyptian knowledge of astronomy was lost, besides a couple manuscripts.
Stonehenge was started in 2000 BC and finished in 1500 BC. The purpose of the stone was unknown to modern scientists until 1960s when Gerald Hawkins finally connected Stonehenge successfully to astronomy by proving the stones lined up with 12 major solar and lunar events. There are among 165 points of astronomical alignment with Stonehenge purely with the sun and the moon.
The Chinese made observations of events that happened in the sky for a period of 2,600 years. They recorded lunar eclipses, solar eclipses, meteor showers, and comets. Among them is a well-known comet, and that would be Comet Halley.
Thales went to Egypt to learn from the Egyptians, and later on, with his new knowledge, he predicted a solar eclipse in 585 BC.
Pythagoras made models of the solar system with two models, one with celestial bodies moving in a circular path, and the other being celestial objects and the earth being spheres. Babylonians contributed to astronomy by finding a reliable method to determine position of planets. Also, they predicted eclipses. Aristotle was a student who used the model of Exodus, but also modified it with concentric spheres. He argued all celestial motion must be circular. Aristarchus is the one who applied geometry to find the distance of the moon and the relative size of the moon and the sun. Eratosthenes used geometry and found a way to calculate the size of the earth. Hipparchus was a very well-known astronomer, but much of his information was lost. One of the things he did was the refinement of the Aristarchus methods of finding the distance of the sun and moon. He also found many star positions. The Mayans thought astronomy was very important. They made calendars off of it and buildings to represent, but much of the information was lost when Spain went on their conquest. Ptolemy contributed to astronomy by making a model in which shows other planets orbiting the Earth. Arabs and Muslims contributed to much of Western astronomy now. They improved many observation techniques and made observations themselves, but mainly they kept the past knowledge of the Greek alive, which influenced Westerners. Nicholas Copernicus contributed to astronomy by being the first man to build a heliocentric model of the solar system. Brahe was a man who was able to make observations accurate than any other astronomer, and his calculations were the benchmark for astronomical theories to be tested. Galileo had many achievements throughout astronomy. One noticeable one was the one that he proved that Earth was not the center of the solar system by finding other moons that rotate the other planets, such as Jupiter. Kepler is a German astronomer who made the 3 laws of planetary motion. 1. Law of eclipse. 2. Law of equal areas. And 3. Law of harmonies. Sir Isaac Newton contributed to astronomy by making theories of gravity and the effects on astronomical objects. He made this theory with the famous falling of the apple.
Edmund Halley is credited with the discovery of Halley's Comet. He predicted its return in 1758 in his book that he published in 1705. He also discovered celestial longitude and latitude of 341 stars and tried to develop a mechanical explanation for planetary motion, but failed. He devised a method for observing transits of Venus across the Sun to determine the distance of Earth from the Sun in 1716. Einstein created the theory of relativity. The theory of relativity is divided into two parts. Special relativity relates to movement and says that it's impossible to tell if you're moving if there are no objects to compare yourself to. General relativity redefines the laws of gravity. It says you can't tell the difference between gravity and the force of inertia from a moving object. It also says that large objects cause space to bend. This theory was created in 1905 and 1915. Niels Bohr created the Bohr's atomic model in 1913. This model shows electron travel around the nucleus in a discrete orbit. Wolfgang Pauli introduced the quantum number called spin in 1924. He helped establish the Copenhagen interpretation of quantum mechanics that says physical concepts must be limited by the possibilities of observation. In 1930, he predicted the existence of neutral particles called neutrinos. In 1940, he formed the spin statistics theorem. Werner Heisenberg found a way to formulate quantum mechanics in terms of matrices. In 1927, he published the uncertainty principle. In 1923, Edwin Hubble discovered a Cepheid star that was 1 million light-years away. This proved that the Milky Way isn't the only galaxy. He mapped out the nebulae and found that the universe is still expanding. Georges Lemaitre in 1927 made Einstein's relativity equations fit an expanding universe. In 1931, he created the beginnings of the Big Bang Theory. Robert Oppenheimer in 1942 worked with the Manhattan Project. He was the director. He started the new lab in Los Alamos and opposed the building of stronger atomic bombs. In 1946, Fred Hoyle established nucleosynthesis, the creation of elements through stars. In 1948, he came up with steady-state universe idea, which is the creation of matter between galaxies. And in the 1980s, he was an advocate for panspermia.
Penzias and Wilson used radio waves to prove the expansion of the universe. Armstrong and Aldrin were the first two men to walk on the moon.